Hey, welcome to Playing for Keeps, the show where we take a deep dive into emotional intelligence, sex, love, adult attachment theory, mental health, therapy, and everything in between that creates great relationships. Your host, DJ, is a certified life coach and emotional intelligence practitioner. She's here to be of service to all the listeners interested in love and relationship. Now, here's your host, DJ.
Hey everybody, it's your girl DJ with Plan for Keeps podcast, and today we have a special guest. We have Kevin O'Connor. He is a life, relationship, and man coach with over 30 years of experience. Today he is here to speak on the topics of strengthening your relationships, what women really want, what men can do to make women happy, how to strengthen your relationships with all of your loved ones and make them more intimate. How are you today, Kevin?
I'm fantastic, and it's a pleasure to be a guest on your show.
I appreciate that, and I'm so glad you were able to make time to come on today. So let's kind of just dive into it. You have over 30 years of experience. Most of the time when a coach goes on this journey, it's most of the time something personal happens. So why don't you tell us a little bit just about your story and why you became a coach?
Absolutely, and let's clarify that although I have not been coaching for 30 years, which is probably why I'm a good coach, and it's because I build my coaching practice based on my life experiences. And that's not to say that somebody who hasn't been focused on family marital counseling or coaching or anything for the last 30 years isn't effective. But I think one of the things that sets me apart is that I was every man. I was the person on the other side of the coach for so many years
Gotcha.
because I was a married man for 27 years. I have two adult children that are amazing. And I say to people that I was an exceptionally average husband. So I had average down I would have won a medal for being remarkably average.
Oh,
And
wow.
at some point in my life, you realize that if you want to be exceptional in your life, you could probably be an exceptional partner as well. And I sort of came to realizing that when my marriage ended after 28 years, actually, and I was left as a single middle-aged guy. Still had great relationships with my kids, and I thought, there was something that I was missing in terms of really understanding women, understanding partnership, understanding how to work together with somebody else. And that began my personal journey into the subject matter that I really, really love, which is working with men and working with couples and helping them build connection. And that's something that's sadly missing in most relationships now,
It is.
intimate connections. And so that's how I started out. And it was really about understanding where maybe I could have showed up stronger in a better way and made a bigger difference in the life of my wife. And
Okay.
that's the origin of my journey.
Okay. So after the divorce and you come into this realization, what was the actual first, like, tangible steps that you took?
Well, the first thing I did was I realized I had no clue about dating. So,
Okay.
when you get to a certain point in your life, so I'll tell you a funny story. My son was, I guess he was about 22 at the time, and he said, "Dad, well, I guess you're going to have to try to get him some dating apps." And I said, "Let's do it." So the first one, he said, "Try Tinder." I said, "Okay, I'm going to get on Tinder." So I put my profile up on Tinder and I sat around. It was the holiday time, and I got a response. I matched with something. I was like, "All right, this thing's working." So I saw the person's profile. She was cute. I read it, and I wrote this response, and then nothing happened. There was no response back.
Yeah.
So he came to me. He came over later and he said, "So how's it going?" I said, like, "I don't get it." I said, like, I matched with someone. I wrote something. Nothing back from the person. He said, "Well, let me see what you wrote." And I said, "Okay." So I open up my app and I read, and he says, he's reading and he's reading and he's reading. He says, "Dad, like, you wrote a story, like you wrote a book. Do you know that that person is probably totally freaked out? Like, where is this coming from?" I said, "Well, I was trying to talking, I was engaging." He said, that's just not how it works. So he started to give me a few tips, and I realized I had no clue. I had no clue. So I began a process. I think I better figure this out. So, in my mind, I started building this guide called, it's really a guide to digital dating in your middle
Okay.
years, trying to figure out exactly how that worked. And so I ended up connecting and getting good at this, getting good at
Okay.
different apps, getting good at having conversations. And I remember I was going through counseling at the time. And my counselor said to me, he said, how are these dates going? I said, oh, they're going great. He said, how are these conversations? Oh, I'm having a lot of them. He said, you talk about a lot of these. Do you ever think that maybe you're not actually in the dating mode, but you're doing research? And I'm like, yeah, I am kind of doing research. So that continued on. And I've actually spoken to hundreds, probably 500 to 800 different people at women about their experience in dating. And that was really what formulated my approach to understanding what women are wanting. So it's one thing to have
Wow.
10 women explain about their relationship and what went wrong, what they would do better or differently, or what they wanted more. But when you have hundreds and hundreds of women sort of sharing similar stories, you realize there's a body of information here that can be acted on, and maybe I could translate that into some guidelines and some suggestions for men as we think about what it's like to start dating again. And
Yeah,
so that was my research. So the first one was like how to fail with my son, and the next one was how to get good at it, and then was like how to actually approach this from more of a process of learning something so you could give back to people and help them make a difference in their relationships.
got you. And I think you brought up an amazing point that people don't do when they're like dating. I think people are in such a rush too to just find somebody. I think dating is in a way, when you're beginning, it is collecting information, it is doing research, it is kind of figuring out yourself, and then also seeing what's out there, so you know what you like.
Yeah. And I actually came up with the 4 C's of dating. So these
Okay.
are my 4 C's of dating.
Okay.
First one is conversation. So you
Okay.
want to have a conversation. So I'm always suggesting to men, a conversation is not one or two or three little lines every 3 or 4 days on a dating app that says, hey, how you doing? It's about moving into conversation where you have some real-time conversation. That usually involves having a phone call at some point. You're actually speaking to the person.
Right.
The next C is for connection. Now you have this conversation, you have a good conversation, you're talking about things. You should intrinsically have a sense that there's a nice connection here. I like this. Then the third one's a little harder to get now through these COVID times, but ultimately it's chemistry. It's like when you meet somebody, you spend some time with somebody. Is there chemistry? Do we have this, like, is there just like, there's this nice energetic
Yeah.
tension between the two? And then eventually you do that enough, and then you might get to a place of commitment where you're exclusive with each other and you're actually dating. So I tend to tell people that it's an organic process. You take every step as if it might be the beginning and the end of that phase. So have a great conversation. At the end of that moment in time, maybe you won't be going out on a date. Maybe you won't have another conversation, but put your heart and soul and express your curiosity in that conversation. You have a connection, follow up with another call, another opportunity to have a conversation, create time for chemistry. And at any point in time, you might run out like, yeah, we had a nice conversation, but it wasn't really a connection, or the conversation was short and abrupt. And I'll tell you this funny story.
Okay.
I'm connected with somebody, and this is how limiting like this conversation. So she gave me her phone number.
Okay.
And I said, I'll give you a call. And she says, it won't be a long call. And she says, I can really tell right away if there's a connection. I said, wow, like what's right away? She said, 30 seconds. I can tell. I said, I'm thinking to myself, that's pretty remarkable, 30 seconds. So I call her, and literally as she picks up the phone, within seconds, UPS is at my door. So I say probably 15 seconds into the call, oh, UPS is here. I just have to open the door for a sec. And I'll call, and she says, it's okay. I've had enough time. Thanks. It was lovely chatting with you.
What?
And I'm like, whoa, you did that in 15 seconds. Like that was no longer than 20 seconds. And
Yeah.
that was the call. So,
That's
so,
crazy.
so you could think of that as being super weird, or you can also think about it as her being so dialed in to exactly the feeling she wants when she connects with somebody that it just wasn't magical. So, I mean, you can have two, there's lots of different ways of looking at
I
that.
have a
I just
question
thought it was
on
just
that.
entertaining.
It is entertaining. I have a question on that. So before I go on my question, I have a friend who's middle aged. She's middle aged, and she says within 30 minutes she knows. So I can see that within 30 minutes you ask the certain questions, you get the vibes on the phone. I can see 30 minutes. I think 30 seconds is crazy, but
Yeah, I thought it was pretty remarkable. And I thought, wow, like what if, excuse me, I said, I was blown away. I thought, wow, that's pretty impressive.
did they?
Oh,
That is.
and the other thing that was part of in the early days, what the most important thing to remember about dating is that you cannot take things personally.
Yeah.
When you're doing I look at the digital dating, online dating as like going to the carnival, going to the fair. So you go to a Tinder or a Bumble or a Hinge or one of the other apps, there are thousands of people, and so, and you can, it's like going to this large Disney World, and
Right.
wandering through, there are going to be places that just don't capture your interest.
True.
And, or if you're going to the local fair, the carnival or something like that, there's sections of the carnival that are just too seedy and not like, I don't want to eat that food. And so you get to choose when you're in the dating app. You don't get, it's helpful not to look at the dating app as like an indication of all the people out there. You get to navigate through that. So there are going to be some creepy people. So you stay
Right.
away from that part of the fair. You get to be really clear about what things you're looking for. So you get away from the time wasters. You got to be really careful not to just sort of throw it out and say, I'm in the fair. Oh my God, it's overwhelming. You got to be really clear about what booths you're going to, what games you're
That's
going to play.
true.
So it's kind of the analogy. But I was thinking about that conversation of 30 seconds. That's probably in the early days. And I realized probably no other, maybe an actor or a model would have the same feeling, because when you are online dating, you get rejected every day.
Yeah, you do.
Every day there's an opportunity for somebody basically saying in their own way, you're not the one. Now, when you're growing up as a guy, like you may get rejected 10 times by the time you're in college. Maybe you didn't go to the dance with the girl you wanted to. Maybe you didn't hang out with the right people. Maybe you didn't make the baseball team or the hockey team, and you got cut. But there are not that many opportunities for you to feel really disappointed. When you get in the dating game, you can have them every day. You could
Every
be
day.
matching with someone, have a quick conversation. That person never writes you back. You could say one line and you go back the next day and you're unmatched. You could have a phone
Right.
conversation and say, maybe we should talk again, and have them say, nah, I'm not really feeling it. You can
Right.
do, you can have any number of places along the journey where someone can basically say,
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't think
good.
it's happening. So I
Yeah.
really remind people, it's not personal. It's not about you. They don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you bring. Their gut tells them that this isn't you're not the right person. So that's okay. But it's not like somehow you're a loser or somehow like there's something wrong with you. So you got to have a bit of a thick skin, and you got to focus out, and you got to think about yourself as somebody has lots to bring to somebody else's life when the fit is there. And
Right.
I bet from personal experience, sometimes you'll reject a guy or say no, and they'll blow up your screen by saying, "What do you think?" They'll get like, "What?" And I think to myself, "What is that all about?" The person just said, "You're not for me," and now you're going to prove it. You're going to prove it by just saying hope. It's like, whoa, she's not
Right.
saying you're not a good person. He's not saying, they're just basically giving you clear feedback that you're not the one. You got to be able to accept that. But no, and women will tell me all the time, you would not believe what these guys write after.
Oh yeah, they be
Now,
upset.
it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, they're upset. So I'm
Why,
gonna
why do
say
you think that is? Why do you think that is?
it's an ego thing, I think. Rejection is a hurtful thing. So, and I think hurtful people hurt people. Hurt people, excuse me. So, you hurt their ego, you hurt their feelings. So they and subconsciously they have to hurt your feelings. Or what you were just saying before, sometimes when we know that we're just this awesome person, we feel like we have to prove ourselves. So we will blow them up or be like, well, you're mistaken, and try to fix that. I think it's an ego thing when guys do that. And even some females, because in a female's perspective, when they're kind of rejected and they really like the guy, sometimes they find themselves in a, well, let me prove myself standpoint. And
Hmm.
it still doesn't work out for them, because when you feel like you're having to prove yourself to somebody who already doesn't see that you're a fit, you're showing that you don't value yourself.
Yeah,
Do you agree with that?
I do, and I actually think the best way to look at these things is to look at your own behavior, because like as you described, I can remember going on this, like I thought this was a magical date. We went for a walk along the ocean, and then I got back home. I wrote a little note, hey, that was fantastic. And she wrote me back. She said, hey, I really enjoyed myself too. And I don't mean to offend you, but you're so easy to talk to. You're kind of like a girlfriend. I was like, I just got girlfriend to friend zone like that. And I'm thinking, and I remember writing a long response. And now where I'm at now, I'd be like, okay, like we're not the ones. But I remember thinking like, there's nothing girlfriend about me. I'm man.
Right. Manly. I want to go back to something. So this is one of the questions I want to go back to, and you just kind of interjected in that. So when we were talking about the woman who knows in 30 seconds what she wants, right? Like, and you compared it to maybe she's looking for that hard hit magical chemistry. A guy who's understanding, who's nice, who's this, who's that, they don't have that bad boy persona. I think sometimes women, and this isn't all women, but they get it confused. Like they're looking for something toxic due to childhood trauma, or just stuff, something they may have been through in the past. And like I always talk about stuff like you're creating what you're looking for subconsciously. Would you would you agree with that, just based off of the story that you just gave? Would you agree with that? Like maybe like
Ab- Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll give you an example.
okay.
Uh, the other day, a friend of mine who I'm close with said, hey, are you able to, and she's a 5-year-old son that I really, really enjoy hanging out with. She said, if you're coming into LA, I'm heading to Amsterdam and maybe we can have breakfast. And if you're open, drive me to the airport. And now she's dating somebody. And the first thing that went off my mind was like, I wonder if she's asked her new man to drive her, because I'm her friend.
Yeah.
And when I wrote her, I said, just curious, like she had an answer that was like kind of confusing to me. I thought, she said, well, I'm just starting out. I wouldn't really ask him. And in my mind, doing all the coaching, I'm thinking, this, if you're the queen, this is the time to ask your king to step up and support you. So she had him off here, and then she had her male friends here. And I was like, so I am like, I wasn't able to drive her. Actually, circumstances being, but my mind was going to what now? What we do know about him is he's slightly disconnected, really busy building
Right.
his business, not that communicative. So she has him in a place where he is not as attainable and not as connected and emotionally engaged with her. And that attracts her.
Right. And
Whereas I think that is not, I think that's a story about worthiness. I think the man, the real man, says, baby, like I am there for you. Call me anytime, middle of the night. You have
right.
a PTSD response, call me. Not like I'll call my friends, but I can't do that relationship thing.
See, so that's why I think some women, so with, and this is just me think talking on my own. I don't know if this is her scenario or maybe this is her, but I know a lot of women, like they don't want to, they get into relationships and they don't want to put too much on the man at first, right? Or they don't want to do that at first. And they don't understand that you're showing this man how to treat you in a way. And I think that's due to, and I think too, not saying she, I know a lot of women who move like that. They're used to having to prove themselves to the man that they're worthy of him taking them to the airport, or like they don't have to ask. Eventually, like they see the man is kind of distant. Maybe she brought it up, like, oh, I gotta go to the airport, and he didn't say anything. So let me just ask a friend, and maybe in the back of her mind, she's thinking, well, eventually he'll do these things, and I'll just prove myself and show that I'm somebody who he will just eventually just offer to take to the airport or be there for like that. Like I think just because of just the culture of women and just different things, a lot of women feel like they have to prove themselves to a man, like on a subconscious level. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. And it's a way in which they've been socialized and brought up. So I'm big on women and worthiness and being that goddess energy. And
Yes.
remember, the masculine takes care of the feminine.
Right.
If the woman is doubting and looking after the man all the time, that's actually being in her masculine.
It
When
is.
he's receiving and accepting that, my man's coming over tonight, I'm going to cook him a good meal, and he doesn't have to put out, he's actually in the feminine, she's in the masculine. And when a
Right.
woman's in her masculine all the time, and a guy will just like, he's just found a new mama. It's like, oh, I had my mama looked after me. That was good. And then he'll go off and do his thing. And sometimes this is a cultural thing too. It depends on who
Yeah.
did primary child rearing, because child rearing is also a masculine activity. Anytime that you're taking something from here to there, it's the masculine. Anytime you are receiving, you are providing consolation and support and being open and peacemaking, that's the feminine.
Yeah.
So, think of an example where the guy comes home from work. You've been, maybe it's a traditional relationship where actually you're a stay-at-home mom. He thinks when he gets home, he's supposed to have someone come run to the door and dinner's ready. It's like, that's in reality, she's been working as hard, if not harder. His role is to walk in the house and say, baby, how's your day? Let me take the kids out for a walk for half an hour. You take some chill time. Do you know that will blow her mind? Now, don't
Yeah.
worry about dinner. Well, you need to prep with dinner with you? What do you mean? You're going to help me? Yeah. I know you've been with the kids all day. It's a hard day. It's like, and like, what's going on? And I'm doing laundry all day. Laundry? Let me go up and fold some stuff. If you
Yeah.
want to get in bed fast with your girl, take care of her.
Right.
Don't be sitting around waiting to be waited on and then complain that you don't have any intimacy. Intimacy is through action and connection and listening. So in those situations, I think that they have gotten used to the fact that the man is here kind of aloof and they have to sort of measure up. That is a flip side of my
It
personal
is.
philosophy anyway. She needs to be alive with him and attentive, but he gets to give to her.
Right. So how do you first let me go how do you coach a man that's aloof and who comes to you confused? Because like you said, you've been on both ends of the spectrum. How would you coach a man
Well,
in that?
first thing you ask is, tell me everything about your wife, her dreams, her thoughts, her upsets, and what turns her on, what makes her happy. You can even ask, tell her about where her mind's at sensually. And most often the guys, they can't answer those questions. So if you can't tell me, the most extreme example, if you can't tell me what really turns your girl on, what really excites her, what makes her day, what she's stressed about, what are some of the challenges in her life, what really is going on at a heart level. If you can't answer those questions, chances are your intimacy is, you're not showing up in an intimate way.
Right.
I saw this comedian the other day, and she said, if you want to get your woman into bed, and you guys are always complaining, the next time she starts telling you about something, listen, and when she's finished, say, tell me more. I really want to know more about what you're thinking.
Right.
Like, show real interest. And she's like, you want to know more? Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me more of that story. Tell me what else. Because intimacy is created through connection. So usually when men are kind of aloof, they're they're not connected to their partner. And usually they're not actually connected to themselves. So everything starts with yourself. So if you look at
Gotcha.
men who are disconnected, that are busy, that are focusing on other things, they're usually, if you ask them sort of what's going on inside of them, they really struggle to tell you. Drill down before they'll tell you, well, honestly, I'm really preoccupied because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, or I'm really struggling with this, or my dad's sick and you know, and it'll take them a long time. But once they
Oh,
start opening up about themselves, they will naturally be more connected to their partner because they're more connected
Yeah.
to themselves.
Yeah, or they'll get angry. I've been in that situation. Like you try to get them to open up and they get angry because and like you said, they're not really connected to themselves, so they can't really explain to you why. And I think with a lot of women, not all women, but I know I'm one of those women. I used to push and try to, try to make them open up, and that's not the right. I learned that's not exactly the right way to do it, and a lot of them will get angry.
Well, men don't really have a wide, like they've got about four emotions, right? There's excitement. They watch the
Okay.
ball game. Whoa! They've
Right.
got frustration and they've got anger. And the
Mm-hmm.
other one is they've got indifference. Yeah, whatever. But they don't really have a lot of, and then they'll tell you that sex is how they show love. And so they think that they are loving because they, baby, we make love, It's like,
Right.
that's not exactly like loving me. Well, that's how I get close to you. That's why it's like,
Right.
well, I want you to be kind of close to me before we make love. What? Like it's very hard. So when you push a guy, he's only got 4 or 5 options, right? And where's he going with that? It's like so you have to ask him, like, when I asked you this question, what's coming up in your body now? I notice you're kind of shutting down. What are you feeling? Not what are you feeling about what I was talking about. It's just like, I get the sense you don't want to talk about this. What's coming up for you? If you say,
That's a
well,
good
I
way
feel
to.
uncomfortable. Now it's like you're feeling uncomfortable. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I feel a little agitated or I feel annoyed. What do you think why do you think you're annoyed? Well, honestly, I don't want to talk about it. Why don't you want to talk about it?
Yeah,
Well, it's upsetting. What part's upsetting? Well, I don't really know what to do. Now we got dialogue. Now we got
got
conversation.
you.
As opposed to, you're really quiet lately. What's the matter? Oh, I don't know. I don't want to talk. Nothing. No, something's the matter with you? Let's go and I can tell you nothing's going on. Like, I told you. It's like, you're not fooling me, and that's
And
the
then
big
back and
argument
forth.
becomes, yeah, I know you. Nothing's going on. Like, you're pissing me off. It's like, so, that's
Right.
kind of the man response. And then you get annoyed, like, I'm just showing my interest in you, and you're kind of
Right.
on my case now. And then you said, like, how did we just start fighting when I was actually trying to see how he's doing?
Crazy. Right.
It's all about, it's all just about finding that flow of being understanding your partner and not having your own agenda, being actually genuinely interested in that person.
Can you break that down, like not having your own agenda? Like when you said that, what came to my mind was, so, people will want to just be that perfect person, but they don't really have their partner in mind. Like maybe they want to look good to the outside world. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Could you break that down for me?
So the two words I use are what's their come from. So in other words, why did they want to ask their partner how he's doing? So there could be one which is you're genuinely like, I feel a little upset tonight. Is there any support I can give you? What's going on? Versus, I want something from you and you're not giving it to me because you're shut down. So I'm going to push you and find out what's going on. You're not actually interested in what's going on. You're really trying to tell them, I'm feeling kind of lonely and, by myself here. You're silent. You're not talking to me, and I could use a little loving. So that person's not vulnerable enough to say, hey, I know you're preoccupied. I miss you. I love you. They don't want to do that. So they'll push the person to say, what's going on? But so
Right.
their come from, and the first one was genuine interest. And the second one, my come from is I'm upset with them actually, because I'm
Gotcha.
feeling neglected. So I will try to dig and find out what's going on. Unfortunately, that'll just upset them. And then you'll even be more upset. So
Gotcha.
you come from, ask yourself when you're going to start a conversation and choosing the words you choose, where are you coming from? Like what is it?
And be
And they will pick it
honest.
up.
Yeah, and be honest because, like you just said, they will pick it up regardless.
Yeah, and everybody
So,
needs,
right. So,
like they say, you see, she gave me that look. And then he said, what was that look all about? Nothing. It's like, I've been married to you for 15 years. We've been dating for 2 years. When you look at me that way, so what do I need to do to have you tell me exactly what's bothering you? Because I know something's about nothing. Okay. I think you probably need some time. Then It all remember there's this concept of responsibility, which is every event plus the way you react or respond creates a certain outcome. You're in charge of the response. You choose to respond to the event one way, you're going to get a different outcome. Somebody comes home, slams the door, and you get to react. What the hell was that all about? The
Right.
outcome is going to be a fight. Someone comes and slams the door, and you decide that's an indication that somebody's not good. I'm just going to hold, I'm just going to check in with them. Different outcome. The same door got slammed, but you took responsibility for the outcome by your response.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. Okay. What would you say was the hardest lesson you had to learn, and how do you apply it within your relationships today?
the most powerful message, two messages that I want to leave people with. Number one, when you're in relationship, if you choose your partner in the morning and you choose them at night, there's nothing coming between the two of you. So what I mean by that is no matter where you're at with your relationship, when you wake up in the morning and you lean over and you talk to your girl, your man, and say, I love you. Hey, here, new day. Let's be grateful. And you connect. I don't care who's in their life during that time and the evening time, they're not going to come between you and your relationship. And at nighttime, the same deal. Go to bed at the same time, connect, find a way to connect before you go to sleep. And that is, you're really establishing a pattern of connection every day. As soon as you stop connecting, as soon as you go a day or two or three or five or six or seven, then, for that guy, that kind of a hot woman at work that's kind of really attentive to him, she starts to capture his interest because he hasn't been in a situation where he's chosen his partner. I tell you, if you choose your your partner in the morning, like nobody, I don't care who they are, is coming between you and them that day. It's just a strong bond.
Yeah.
And the other one was really the definition of love. For me, and all the things I've learned are people sharing their stuff. So I'm really like just an encyclopedia of everything that I've learned that I've either messed up on or I've learned a lesson or someone shared. A person said to me, I don't want you to love me. I want you to love yourself when you're with me. I want you to love the time that you're with me. And it
Wow.
had me thinking that, isn't that the truth about what love is all about? That you're not wanting something from somebody, you're wanting to give something to somebody in such a way that they go, I am really, I feel special. I feel good about myself. I feel amazing about the time. And if you do that, it's inevitable that love will flow back to you. But if you do things to get love, I really want him to love me. Start off with, I just want him to feel love, like love himself, be accepting of himself, feel good about himself, enjoy his time with me. And if I can somehow do that, the rest will look after itself. So
Yeah.
and that's really in my mind kind of the difference between conditional love and unconditional. So unconditionally create space for friends and family so that they just feel good about themselves, because there's so many reasons in society now, so many messages about why you should feel bad about yourself. I mean, the whole consumer market is based on you feeling uncomfortable. You need to lose weight because this is what the ideal body is. You need to eat this kind of food. You need to, dress this way. You need to
Yeah.
do this. Every message creates this felt dissatisfaction, which is like, oh, I guess I'm not good enough. So if you create a good enough experience with your partner, the love will flow. That's my little thing for today.
I love that. I really do. So let me ask you this. What projects do you have coming up?
I've got my coaching practice, which I love, which is my one-on-one coaching practice. And then within the next 6 to 8 weeks, I'll be launching my intimacy program for couples, which is a 7-day program. It's online. And I take a little different approach. So I'm not actually coaching, and there's no, do this. It is actually a guided voice presentation in the morning and night. So with music and my voice, and I set them up to work through the variety of senses over the week. You lie in bed with your partner in the morning, and you lie in bed with your partner at night. So even that might be a stretch for people because, oh, we don't sleep together. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Right.
Well, he snores. Well, let's talk about getting him a CPAP or helping him figure out his snoring. Oh, it's been 5 years. He makes a lot. Well, let's figure out how we can create some intimacy. But anyway, in the morning, you do this little 10-minute, evening, you do a little 10-minute, and you work through eventually getting to the point where you actually are touching at the end of the 7 days. Because I'm really trying to rebuild connection, because I told you earlier, like connection is huge for intimacy. So getting people to move away from thinking that the only way you connect is to grab each other once in a while and give a hug. It's like you can listen to each other's breathing, you can sit with each other, quiet, you can reflect on things. So that's my project. It'll be available on my website, which is www.practicalmasculinity.net. And I'm also on Instagram at Practical Masculinity. And the Practical Masculinity brand is sort of my COVID brand. It just started just as COVID hit. So I'm building my following. So I invite your listeners to follow me and then also to visit my website. And this has been delightful. I appreciate this.
Awesome. And all of the links will be in the show notes. I want to thank all of the listeners for tuning in. You can follow me at P4K Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to today's show. If you liked this podcast, please download and subscribe. If there's anything you would like to talk about in regards to relationships, or would like to be a guest on the show to speak on relationships or get advice, you can always connect via social media at Playing for Keeps or email DJ at info@p4kdating.com. Thank you for tuning in, and bye for now.